Hey everybody, happy Tuesday and welcome back to Inner Game where we talk about the mind gremlins. Katie is not able to be with us today, but I absolutely love talking about all the mind gremlin issues. It's one of my favorite things, right up there with content and messaging, is talking about the mind gremlins because truthfully, like those are the in my experience and now continuing to work with more and more nurses in business, these are like the two huge pieces that most people don't recognize are the biggest roadblocks from getting them to the success that they want, right? From reaching the success they want. Either they are not, they're not getting the sales, they're not getting the clients, they're not building their audience because they don't have their messaging nailed down. They're not, whether they don't even know who they're targeting, who their audience, who their true DNP is, or they're paraphrasing and they don't, they haven't connected with that messaging. They haven't created that connection messaging with their audience. So they immediately go, yes, that's it. That's, they're not magnetized to you. So there's a huge gap in content and messaging with most nurses that I've worked with in business. And then this other mind gremlin piece, it's huge. It is so huge. And you probably had no idea that becoming an entrepreneur would be the biggest course in self-development and personal development that you ever decided to take on. And that's the reality of it. If you are not interested in, personal development, entrepreneurship is probably not for you because it's a requirement. It is as required as actually more so than the logistical pieces of your business. And most of us come in, and I certainly did too. I had no idea what was actually blocking me from moving the needle in my business and getting to the next level, getting to the next step. And it was mind gremlins mostly, of me like making that commitment and recognizing I had to literally move myself out of my own way in order to actually, take those next steps that were scary, that made me get out of my comfort zone, made me step out of my fear of judgment, made me step out of my fear of failure, made me do all those things that I wasn't comfortable doing. I was super confident in my nursing skills, and that's what I thought you needed in order to be a nurse in business. Little did I know at the time how much personal development would be involved. And now that's my favorite piece, right? Because it really is, although you definitely need goals. And I want you to, we talk in the group about, making your annual goals, chunking them down to not 3, 90-day goals and working your way backwards so that you continue to move forward and you can see the progress that you're making. But ultimately, those milestones aren't really, they're not really the win. It's who you have to become, the version of yourself that you have to become in order to get to that goal that actually is, that's actually the win. Right. And so there was a quote, and I think I've said it in here before, but, every next level of your life is going to require a new version of you. And that's never more apparent than entrepreneurship. And so today I wanted to talk just a little bit about releasing the white knuckles of control. Because, that is a toughie. Okay. And I certainly experienced that going in. I had no idea that it was control that was actually the underlying cause of why I was resisting, doing certain things. I thought I thought I knew what I wanted to do. And I wanted, this is the way I envision it. But there was so much about entrepreneurship and about business that I didn't understand coming in, because how could you? It's a new, it was a new specialty to me. I've never had a business, I had never gone through a business class. I'm not an MBA, all of those things, not a marketer for back then. And now I consider myself a marketer, but I certainly didn't back then. And even honestly, a year ago, I didn't consider myself a marketer. I wanted to be a marketer. I wanted to understand it better, but I didn't have that identity. And so, here I was, I had this box of what I thought I was going to do. And so I was really, resistant to letting go of that. And I wanted to still hold on to, yeah, but all these, things I had all my, yeah, but I hear you when I got, when I was working with mentors or coaches or, you know, um, you know, other entrepreneurs, listening to like what they were doing, what was working, what wasn't working, why, getting some advice. And then I was still following it with, nodding my head, yeah, but, that's not for me. Or, yeah, but that doesn't fit for cancer, or yeah, but I always had a yeah, but. So I wonder you to take a pause, today and think about, when you are working with other mentors and coaches, and maybe you haven't yet, maybe that's your yeah, but I don't have the money to do that right now. Well, then can you really, how do you, reconcile that you're also not getting where you're not where you're at, where you want to be in your business? So you can't have, both things. You have to say, well, if this is what I want, then then what is it going to take for me to get here? And then I have to behave accordingly. And so in the beginning, I set those goals, but I wasn't taking the advice. I wasn't listening to the mentorship. I wasn't making the choices to let go of me white knuckling what I thought I wanted in this little box, the way I envisioned it. I was really reluctant and resistant to letting it evolve the way it needed to in order to be successful. And like, it's just now at this point, I look back and think, man, like, one, how much time did I waste in that mode? A ton. Months, in fact, months I wasted in that resistance, because I wasn't willing to release the white knuckles of control. And then also, like, just thinking about the opportunities that did evolve from me letting go and allowing it to unfold as it was meant to unfold, and learning all the while going and discovering that actually what I originally had visioned wasn't the right model. It wasn't, what was going to get me what I wanted, and how I wanted to serve people. So, it's amazing what actually will unfold when you allow it, when you don't try to control the outcome, right? Let me know if that makes sense. And that really is about control. And I've also worked with nurses, some, one-on-one, uh, fairly recently, where they were still trying to control. They weren't releasing the white knuckles of certain pieces, certain aspects of their business. But then they were frustrated and, coming for advice and guidance of what to do. And I'm like, well, you need to do this. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm like, okay, well, then I guess we'll just sit here. I guess we'll just stay stuck right here, because this is what this is what you need to do in order to move forward. If you're not willing to do that, then okay, then we can just sit tight exactly where you are, but recognize that's the step. Like, this is what it's going to take in order for you to, get what you say you want. So either reevaluate what you say you want, or commit to what you say you want, and then you have to let go. You have to release the death grip of control and let that happen. Right. And so for some people, that might be that you might have to do some outsourcing. Right. It might be that you are still the one man show. And, this is kind of recently, because I'm working on hiring. Currently, I'm hiring a VA. And, that whole process, I've put it off for a long time, because I quite frankly just didn't want to go through the logistics of the whole hiring piece, and the job description, and the training, and the onboarding, and all the things, the payment, and all that stuff. Like, I didn't want to, I was just putting that off. I knew, but here's the reality. It's inevitable. Like, I knew it was inevitable. I knew that I was actually slowing myself down by not getting that VA in place. because there's so many things that I'm doing now, task, and this is where, like this is a lesson, guys. Like, Katie and I are up here. We've done this for a number of years, and we've certainly have worked with a tons of nurses. Katie's been doing it longer than I have even, and I'm working, with nurses across the country. I'm working with a startup platform. I'm working with messaging mentors, and all these mentors, these 7-figure earners, and I'm watching, and listening and absorbing and learning so many things from them. But I had to be willing to say that, like, I cannot possibly do this all by myself. Nobody can. Nobody. If you look at, who, I don't know who it is that, pick anybody that you look up to, who is, as an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, and then think about, are they really a one-person show? Like, no, nobody. They all have teams behind them, right? Katie has this huge team. She even created a design team to help better serve the audience of nurses, because we were just couldn't stomach hearing everyone getting burned again and again and again on their websites. So she actually created a whole additional team to help serve her audience in a very specific way that they were asking for, right? So everyone has, you can't possibly do it alone. And so if you stay too long, I've had this conversation before of, yeah, but I really can't afford, I'm not making the revenue yet for me to afford paying someone. My question would be, again, and I've talked about this before, what is it costing you to hold on to that belief, to hold on to that control of you doing it? One is a belief there. There's a limiting belief that you can't afford it, right? Because you don't have the income that you want you're not generating the revenue that you want. But there's also, there's control rooted underneath there, guys. Okay. Because if you hire someone, you have to let that piece go, right? And you have to be willing and recognize that they're probably not going to do it exactly the way you want to do it. And you need to have the process. You have to do the training. You have to do the onboarding. You have to do all the things to make sure, unless you're hiring, experienced freelancers who are much more expensive than like a virtual assistant. It depends on what you're trying to outsource, what you're trying to delegate and get off your plate. But regardless, you're going to have to let go of some control. And if you don't, then you're just paying someone on top of not taking anything off your plate. So you actually will have added to your plate, right? If you hire, delegate, but don't give up the control, that everything still has to go through you, that you still have to put your eyes on it, that you're still going to tweak it after they get finished, then you haven't gained anything. In fact, you just added more to your plate, and now you're paying to work harder, have more things to do than the opposite of what you were trying to do, right? And remember that, we're trying to avoid and move away from being taskmasters, because in general, we subconsciously choose, when there's a long list of things to do, we subconsciously choose the things that are most in our comfort zone and that are the easiest for us. And a lot of times, those are not the 5% activities that actually move your business forward and generate the revenue that you need. Okay. So I would challenge you that if anybody is in that boat of not having the revenue to hire someone to help, and I'm not saying full time, but even, in the beginning, that's okay. But any of the tasks that you're doing, making social media graphics, all these things, uploading your modules, to Kajabi or to whatever your learning management system platform is. Any of those tasks are like, $10 task. I'm not saying they're really $10, but essentially that's how you should think about them, as a $10 task. Am I loading my day? Am I filling my day with $10 tasks because I'm refusing to give up control to someone else, or I'm sitting in the fear of, yeah, but I haven't generated enough revenue. Like it's never going to come, right? That's fear-based. If you don't believe, that tells me that you don't believe in what you're doing, right? If you don't believe that you have a solution to a problem that exists in the market, that you have created a solution match, is what I call it with the nurses that I work with. I call it creating a solution match for an existing problem. If you don't know for certain and believe that what you're doing is needed and that it without a doubt gets people the results that they need, that they are after, right? If it doesn't, you know that it doesn't, you're not sure if it delivers, like that's a whole different issue. Okay. But if you're not confident in what you've created and the program, the services, whatever it is that you're doing, the coaching, the consulting, if you're not 100% confident and believe to your core with every cell in your being that you are providing a very needed service and you over deliver, right? That you deliver on that promise. You know that it's needed, that it's out there. You know that there's a market for it. If you aren't 100% confident in that, then that is also going to stop you from moving forward subconsciously. Okay. So the question is, are you confident in what you're doing? And if you believe that it's needed, that there are people out there struggling and you can help them, and you have this program or service that can help them, you have an obligation to help them, guys. It's not, it's not a matter of should I sell or it's not a matter of selling. You have an obligation to help them in need, right? You can help. They need help. They're struggling. You can get them out of the struggle. You have an obligation to do that, right? To show up and offer to help. And so if you are being weighed down, you're spending your entire day on these little tasks that aren't actually getting you out there, that aren't helping, you get your services out there to help people now, then, that's a subconscious sabotage is what that is. Okay. So really you need to probably sit in the silence a little bit and question yourself, why am I doing that? Why do I keep doing that? And my guess is if you are doing that now, you probably can look back and see the pattern elsewhere, right? That either when things start to get really uncomfortable or you get close to putting your stuff out there, suddenly you decide you need to go get one. You're not quite qualified, imposter syndrome. So you decide you want to get certified now in order to be a coach, or you want to get certified in this one holistic whatever in order to be able to talk to somebody about health and wellness. Whatever it is, like there's something that you will come up with a reason to stay stuck, to stay in your comfort zone. Okay. So that can be fear-based. It can be control-based, that you don't want to let go of, being in control. And the irony is, like, there is no control. Right? Like the irony is we spend so much time and energy trying to control the outcome that we forget that we truly don't have any control of the outcome. Like you don't have, if you're trying to control external factors, you're trying to control how other people show up, or, expecting excellence is different than trying to control other people and what they're doing, their behavior. So if you won't let go of any of your business, any pieces, even the small pieces that could be done by like a virtual assistant, why is that? You need to ask yourself, why am I not letting this piece go? Is it fear-based because I don't really believe in what I'm doing and I don't think that I'm actually going to generate any revenue? Like I'm going to stay in the fear and that keeps me safe in the comfort zone, so I never get out there. So you're not going to make any revenue if you don't make any offers, for sure, right? If you're like, it's impossible. But is the control, is that what you're using as a crutch to keep you in your comfort zone? And for a lot of people it is. And I've talked to, again, I said I worked with nurses one-on-one who were like, yeah, they had some hardcore limiting beliefs that they just didn't want to give up. They weren't ready to didn't want to work through. And that, like, nobody wants to work through it. Those are not necessarily fun things to like work through, to recognize about yourself, some of these traits and habits. But you can't get to the other side. You can't get to where you're going unless you do work through them. There is no circumventing. And so I've had that conversation multiple times with nurses about, like, you can't get around this. It will continue to surface. It will continue to pop up. And if you haven't learned, we're all here learning our lessons. So if you haven't learned a lesson yet, guess what? It's going to get served up again, right? And again and again and again until you learn it. And so one of the nurses that I was working with who was really struggling with letting go of control in her business. And so she just continued to basically throw money at almost everything that was related to like this specific area that she had a very limited belief on about herself, and she wasn't going to she just emphatically said she's going to hold on to. I'm like, well, if you argue for your limiting beliefs, you get to keep them. that's the that's unfortunately the prize of arguing for your limiting beliefs. You get to keep them, and so then you stay stuck. You don't move through them. You don't become the next new version of yourself to go to that next level because you're still stuck. You haven't learned your lesson here. And so she's like, I'm fine with keeping that. I acknowledge that it's a limiting belief. I am not working through it. I have no intention of working through it anytime soon, and I'm just going to essentially throw money at it. So now she's spending a ton of money, still not working through her beliefs, and still, white knuckling all the control. And so it's not a surprise that she does not have the momentum that she actually wants and needs now. Now she's feeling the stress of running out of money quickly because, that was her solution to not giving up control and not working through her limiting beliefs is we'll just throw money at the problem. It never works, guys. It never, ever, ever works. So if you've got to work through those issues in order to get to the other side. And so think about it. If you are stuck, if you feel like you're not where you want to be, you need to take 15 minutes and sit back and really ask yourself, why is that? Why am I not moving? Right? Why am I not doing the things that I know I need to do? And if you are truly scratching your head and you don't know what to do, one, make sure you're posting in the membership and asking advice. Make sure you're submitting a hot seat so Katie and I can help you work through whatever roadblock you're at. If it's really truly a logistic next step, you don't know what it is to do. Utilize the membership. That's what it's here for. And it may be that you need to do, you might need to do some mentoring or some coaching or a program. Again, anytime I see anybody who's asking, to go into the IV hydration space, I'm like, you need, home health, certainly with Pam Taylor. I'm like, you need to hook up with, those kind of business in a box models. I'm like, I would not even attempt to do any of those without first going through one of those, those two masterminds. If it's IV hydration, I would be hooking up with Kimball. If it was home health, I would be hooking up with Pam Taylor, because there's no way I would try or expect that I should know all of those regulations, what it's going to take to build a home health agency or a private duty infusion, services without somebody who has been there, done that, and could do it in her sleep. Like, I just send everyone to them. Right. And so if you think that you can also, you could possibly figure it out on your own, DIY 100%, but recognize what you're going to sacrifice is, a ton more time and nickel and diming resources. So it may not feel like a big investment, but the money that you will continue to put in small increments in doses almost always will outweigh what the initial investment was if you would have just gone with it's particularly if you're in one of those business models, like a business in a box model. Like, I've just seen so many people, and I've done it too. I mean, I did that initially, was like, I didn't know was becoming a course hoarder, right? Of programs and courses that I'm like, oh, well, this is the next, this is the piece I'm missing. Nope. That's not the piece I was missing. Nope. It wasn't logistics. And I, got that program and I'm still stuck. Well, now it's something else. It wasn't any of those pieces. It was right here. It was right here. That's where I was stuck. That was the missing piece that I hadn't worked through, the Mindgremlins that I need to get through in order to release the white knuckles, step out of my, fear, in order to allow what was going to unfold. So I would actually have the opportunities. And once you do that, you'll be amazed at the opportunities that show up out of the blue, like unexpected, better than you could have ever imagined. Those types of opportunities, things that you would have never known or could have foreseen how it could possibly happen. Those are the kinds of opportunities that show up when you do work through the mind gremlins and allow things to unfold and just continue to work on becoming the new version of yourself that you need to be in order to get to that next level. Like, that is the biggest lesson that I could possibly probably share with anybody, because fear and faith, they both demand you to believe in something you cannot see. Both of them. Think about that. Fear and faith both demand you to believe in something you cannot see. Most people automatically go to the fear. Well, I don't have a client yet. I don't have a discovery call even. I don't have, this, I don't have that. How am I possibly going to, get clients? I don't have an audience. How am I going to, generate any money? Well, what are you doing to build your audience? How are you connecting with them? Where are they at? What are you doing right now? Just creating social media graphics is not going to actually get you there. How many people are you reaching out to? Who's your top 50 that you want to work with? What have you done to reach out to them? How are you connecting? How are you expanding your network? How are you telling people about what you're doing? Have you let anyone know that you're open for business? And I can't even tell you how many nurses I know who would have to answer no to that. They're like, well, I'm just not ready yet. Like, I still want to build my course out. I'm like, well, I mean, you can. I highly recommend that you do not spend months and months and months and lots of money, resources, building out a full course without even knowing if anybody's interested in buying it. I highly recommend that you pre-sell, and like, that scares the pants off people when I tell them that. And Course Creators for Nurses, they were like, what? I'm not sure. And so then again, I've seen that over and over again. Here I am telling you, this is like, and this is what everyone else is, this is what all the leading, the leaders who are 7-figure earners who are doing courses, who are doing programs, they all will tell you the same thing. Huge mistake to build out 100% before you even attempt to sell. And yet I can't even tell you how many nurses I have worked with. They were like, I'm just not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable selling something that's not complete. I'm like, okay, well, then I guess I'll see you on the backside for a discovery call later when you reach out to me and ask me for marketing help because your course isn't selling. And I'll tell you that it's not marketing, that's a problem, which I have done over and over again. Right? So, all right, guys. So I would love to hear your comments about, one, if you struggle with letting go of control in your business. And if you do in your business, probably also in your personal life, where are you trying to control things that are not, they're not your responsibility, for one, right? As a parent, and I learned this too. Like, here I am looking like, why are my kids not doing this? Well, I was really trying to control them. It wasn't about, discipline, and it wasn't about them not listening, it was me trying to control. Right. And then I had to go back and go, dang, like, where did that come from? Like, I intentionally did not want to be that parent. Well, that's, I was ingrained in that. Right. So you go back again, peel the onion a little, another layer. Where did it come back? Man, there's still some root issues that I need to get through, in order to let that piece go. So how we do anything is generally how we do everything. So personal life, professional life, you'll be amazed when you start looking for patterns, how those traits and behaviors and habits are throughout your life. It's not just your business. It's also your personal life, where you see those things coming up again and again. Because truly, how we do anything is how we do everything. Right? So I would love to hear, what are some of the issues that you have seen, particularly around control? How do I get past that? If you are stuck on letting go control of something in your business. Maybe you have hired someone and you've delegated, but you're still the person, like you really still, everything still comes through you. And so it doesn't, you haven't really gained anything. So if that's your issue, let's talk about it. Post below. If you are still stuck in that fear base, arguing for your limitations, let's get you through those kinds of things, because you're not going to be able to move your business forward if you want to hold on to those. I'm not good at tech, and you can truly outsource anything. You're either going to pay in time or money. So you have to decide for yourself, how do I want to, what is this going to cost me, and where am I going to take it out of? Is it going to be my time? Is it going to be money? And who is more expensive? Like when it came to the VA thing, I knew that was inevitable. And I also knew it was costing me money, tons and tons of money, for me still doing these $10 tasks when I should be outsourcing those to someone who is less expensive than me, right? And that's the same for you too. Think about what task you're doing right now that are consuming the majority of your time, but not actually moving the needle forward. And it may be something that's necessary in your business, but it may not be necessary for you to do in your business. And so if that's true, then we need to free up more of your time so you can work on your business, not just in it, and get those, network and do the podcast interviews and actually be able to do the coaching and the mentoring or whatever it is that your program that you're doing. You have to be able to free up time, because we all only have 24 hours in a day. So what can we do to give you more time to work on the 5% tasks that will actually impact and hitting your goals? And then what are the other stuff that's still required that you can delegate? And then let's start looking at, who do I delegate to? How do I find them? How do I find the right person? What is the process for outsourcing? Where am I looking? How do I post a job description? All those things, like those are all things that we can work through. But it has to start with you first releasing control, right? And stepping out of the fear and believing to your core that what you're doing is needed and valuable, and that you will deliver the results. You'll deliver on your promise. And so if you believe that, then there is absolutely no reason that you shouldn't be running full steam ahead, right? And if you're not, we need to figure out why. So what is it that's causing you to not run full steam ahead? This is a business. We knew it's not an overnight success thing, right? It's not you punch the time clock in on the day that you want to work on this shift, and then you punch out and you're done. Like what, you don't, there's a runway. You have to build this up, right? And you can't do it by yourself. You physically can't. You'll burn out. You'll quit. I mean, and I've seen so many who have done that path, who were trying for, held on probably too long to trying to do it all themselves. And they just got way burnt out and frustrated and, took a break. They just had to pull out because they couldn't do it anymore. They had kind of run themselves in the ground. And there's no, again, that's not, burnout wasn't the issue, but you can have burnout in nursing business, just like you can have burnout working on the floor in the hospital. But burnout is just the symptoms, right? It's just the symptoms. It's not the actual problem, right? You see that. So you got to get to the root of what the actual problem is. And then we need to tackle that, not just, do a 5-minute meditation, or, tell ourselves we need to go on a walk, or tell ourselves we need to go get a massage, do some self-care or take a break or whatever it is. That doesn't solve the problem. That might alleviate symptoms, but it does not solve the problem. And it's not going to move your business forward. You've got to deal with the problems at hand. Okay. And for a lot of people, it is releasing the white knuckles is what I call it, right? Letting go of that control. A feeling like you actually can control all the things in order to get the outcome. And control is fear-based too. Usually control, the only reason why you're trying to control all the things is because you're afraid, right? You're afraid you'll fail. You're afraid you're not good enough. You're afraid someone's going to find out you're an imposter. You have an inner critic. You're afraid of judgment, of putting yourself out there. It's fear-based. Control, wanting to control, is fear-based. So what is it? that you're doing right now that you need to stop doing? And we always talk about, what do you need to be doing next? I'm asking, what do you need to stop doing? What are the behaviors? What are the thought patterns? What are the things that you need to stop doing right now in order to move your business forward? I would love to see your post below. And let's work through those, because there's no way to get on the other side. You can't circumvent. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up today, and can't wait to see your comments about what it is that you need to stop doing right now in order to move your business forward. All right, post below. I'll see you in the group.